Um, who am I? I am Ken. My name's Ken, Ken Chan. My experience is as a registered architect. I am primarily a front end concept designer in architecture. I've had about 12 years' experience, worked overseas and trained in Australia. Um, I work for large firms, small firms, projects that span from all the way from a house to 600-meter tower. Some of my experience is in China. A lot of my experience is in China. So I've done really large projects, including master plans, cities, and towers, as well as small cultural ones and shopping malls and things like that, as well as tiny ones like houses and all sorts. So I've done all sorts, really. And my primary role is um, doing the front stage, which is the concept stage. Now, I have been exposed to all sorts of things within the architectural profession, and that's why I got registered and I can sort of run some of these projects at least earlier in my career. But halfway through, I decided that this is not something that I enjoyed running projects, at least sort of running construction projects. So I focused primarily on the front stage or front end of the process, which is the design process. I will show you bit of my portfolio in the future maybe, but if you want to have a chat with me, go to www.spatialthinking.co. Spatial Thinking is an architecture and design innovation school, and there we run mini studios, which is sort of like an online architecture studio, architecture and design studio, meant to sort of either help you with your uni or we give you a brief which is specific to spatial thinking. Again, spatial thinking, well, not again, but based on the previous video, I spoke a little bit about the spatial thinking framework. We use that as a way to define a design process for you and guarantee basically of innovative outcomes. Now, I don't know of any course that can guarantee you to become a stronger designer. Okay? Why can we guarantee it? Because it actually drills down to the actual definition of what innovation means in the first place. And if you think that, for example, that innovation is something new, then you're wrong. Okay? And one of the things that we teach you, or I teach you, is to sort of see innovation not as a new thing, but as a novel thing. And that's part of the design framework. If you don't know what innovation really means and how to push it, you can't become a strong designer. Okay? Um, I also do coaching, and I've got a few students who I'm coaching at the moment. And there was this interesting one where he only had 3 weeks before he was going to leave the country, and so I was given 3 weeks to work with him. And in that 3 weeks, twice a week, it was interesting to see actual results in terms of design thinking, design process, the way you see things. And the way you see things ends up being one of the core things that is makes up the spatial thinking method. Okay. Apart from being an architect, again being 12 years, 15 years, I've worked in Sydney, Australia, Melbourne, China, London, Hong Kong. I was trained in Sydney and a little bit in Stockholm as well. Um, Somewhere near the peak of my career, I decided that I wanted to explore technology, and this has long been a not exactly a fascination, but I was aiming for scale, and I've always been aiming for scale. How do I scale things? I suppose growth, scale, something large, something meaningful. And so I self-taught myself how to program. I've got an app called Inkler, INCLR. You can go to the website www.inkler.com. Again, INCLR.com. And that is an app that attempts to bridge architecture with information technology, I suppose. Or at the moment, it's a productivity app, note taking, and so on and so forth. But overall, the idea is to basically create Iron Man in a way. How do we get spatial data? And does data change if you give it spatial or visual structure. Now think about it. You remember everything in your kitchen and your bedroom because there's spatial data, but you don't remember where you left your computer files yesterday because the icon looks the same. Like all icons, all files almost, apart from the little program icons, but most of the icons look the same. And there's no real visual mental mapping or spatial recognition of how to nest. You save a file in a folder, it's nested in another folder, another folder, another folder. That is a really poor way to navigate. And so we forget things, right? And then the issue is we forget things. You think that's normal, but do you agree that a large part of our lives these days is in the digital ecosphere, or our digital life is making up a large part of our lives these days, and yet we forget most of it? Is it so hard to think that that's the reason why we feel so lost? At least this was the case 10 years ago. Now maybe social media has replaced that, but it doesn't mean that we're any more found. We're still lost in a way in the you know in the mass of millions and trillions of information that swarms us every day, right? So I've got a patent for this idea. It's patented in the US. It was patented in China as well, and it's a patent that is a new spatial information system, and it's available on iOS and Mac OS and also Vision Pro, also the iPad as well. On top of that, in the last few years, I've been teaching full time. My primary teaching was for first years in a diploma, so it wasn't a degree. And that was interesting because not only was I teaching first year, I was teaching first years that were struggling to begin with. And the results that I got in terms of in terms of my teaching, fast tracking some of their learning was quite incredible. And I can't say that I did it consistently across the hundreds and hundreds of students that I taught. But there were really some cool examples of really pushing it much further. And it really goes to show just how badly architectural uni, or even uni in general, is teaching our kids these days. And when I first started teaching, I was basically swearing every week because I was just really angry. Like, why did things have to be written in this way? And not only do I have to teach it, but I just felt really sorry for the students. And even to this day, after they've gone through my year with them, the students are very much in contact with me. They're also on the platform, and I teach them and I give them feedback for their projects in their current university degree. Because even within uni, they're not getting that kind of education that is very clear and powerful, and they can do something with it. It's all very loose, just like I explained to you why creativity is taught so poorly. Education is sort of taught poorly. And I don't really get it. I don't really get why things are so loose. It could be the whole Western superiority complex, where just because we're Western, therefore our lessons must be amazing. We do have pedagogies and all that kind of stuff in terms of learning, and it's increasing. It's funny because my daughter also went to a school where there was some hiccups with the upper echelon of principals and teachers, where the principal was fired and all that kind of stuff. But the principal and the two senior vice principals or whatever, they were doing really well, but they were fired. And clearly, the Department of Education doesn't like, I don't know, experimenting or actually innovating and doing well. And so it's a bit of a shame. So that's sort of where I've been spending the past 3 years teaching. And now I'm in Bangkok. I've decided to sort of design my life even further, and I'm expanding spatial thinking. I'm also expanding working on Inkler, as well as I'm learning how to trade on the share market, which is interesting because now I'm starting to see maybe I might even create a framework, a design framework for trading. So that's me, and so now you get to know who I am. Again, I'm almost nothing, I suppose, without you seeing my work, but I'll just give you a small glimpse of one of the favorites, not my personal favorite per se, of my architectural design work, but the students love this one. And I did this design in like an hour and a half at the peak of my sort of career. And so you see it in the background now. This is actually built in China, Hainan. I won't go into the details of it because some of this stuff is copyrighted, and I don't want to step on anyone's shoes. But if you do want to talk to me, I can show you my work. You can get to know me. You can join Spatial Thinking. It's free to join the community, but then obviously if you want to talk about joining one of our mini studios and coaching, and also getting help with your design process or getting help with your uni or just having a chat, feel free to reach out. Again, www.spatialthinking.co. Okay.